live in the first one. Now maybe this one.
You're the crew. We're watching, listening to wrestling.
Welcome to King of the Ring 93. We're going to go over all the goodies and the not so goodies. And we're going to start it off with the captain going over into the...
Captain here. So, King of the Ring, 1993, in the heartland of America.
Oh.
Why do you crap on the quote-unquote heartland of America? Like, it's the heartland. Call it Dayton, right? Dayton, Ohio. Just call it that. Why do you refer it to...
I will give the WWE credit. I now know that Dayton is the heartland of America.
All right. Well, I mean, okay, so you know it's the heartland because... they start off this pay-per-view and they set the tone for an ear-blasting commentary. Why were they yelling every single one of them? I mean, you can't say Macho is yelling because
that's his voice.
That's just how he talks. But yeah, I guess you could say it was a pop. I don't know when it started. It was so. I love the fact that this pay-per-view started off with Razor and Hart. Like, I was like, heck yeah. But, like, I don't know about you guys, but when his song hit, I was like feeding a baby at the time at 10 o'clock at night. I threw the baby in the air, woke the house up. The neighbors called the cops. Like, I marked out hard. Like, I caught the baby, just FYI. No babies were hurt yet. But, I mean, I marked out. And then, like, it was... right after the 1, 2, 3 kid match, and that's why everybody was chanting, 1, 2, 3. It was cool. I mean, I was cool all the way up to Hart's music hitting, and then I was like, okay. Hart comes out, and they kind of crowd pops a little bit, but I will see this: that matchup was clear cut, babyface, heel. Yeah. That was like, you couldn't get any, like, he's the good guy. That's clearly the bad guy. And then I would say, like, I loved hearing Macho on commentary just for the simple fact that he was, like, your color commentary. You're just like, oh, go get him, Bret. It's like, okay, all right, like.
Do the thing. Very insightful. Thank you, Mach.
Like, all right, here is, so, this was the time that the very first match watching it since forever ago that I really was excited about it because I wanted it to go the time limit. And that's a theme I have for this entire pay-per-view. I wanted this match to completely go the limit, and it failed me miserably with the end. Yeah. I hated the finish.
The finish was... yeah.
It really, really was weak, and it took away from it. But the broader story, after watching the entire thing, I kind of see it with that finish. And it was just, to me, it was a very good match. It was a match that was like, okay, Hart just wrestled, Bob Backlund 2 nights before in like a house show for like an hour and 30 minutes, right? He comes in the King of the Ring, he's injured, and then he goes in the first thing into a match with Razor. Everybody wants to see it. And then it was like, yeah, could have been better.
I would say it could have been better for sure. I mean, it came in at 10 minutes and 25 seconds for the total match, which, is a 15-minute time limit. And let's face it, this is 1993 WWF, so their pay-per-views aren't 6 hours long, so they're probably not going to go everything to a time limit. I mean, let's face it, this is a match you wanted to go the 10 to 15-minute route.
Yep.
I mean, so it worked for me. I mean, I would have to agree the finish was kind of meh, but... upon watching the whole pay-per-view, when you review all the finishes, it made sense for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I would have had to have a drink to watch that match, but this is just a foreshadowing. I need another drink for this pay-per-view.
Okay.
I would just say watching it just because of the events of current
Yes,
with Scott Hall.
absolutely.
I was very excited about it. There was a lot of parts in the match that I appreciated that style and era of wrestling because of those two guys just looking at it, and it's like, man, why can't we get this regularly?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I
mean,
was...
just some notes of just that I took from the match is like you actually watched them tell a story in the ring. You had Bret basically just in control for a while until he got thrown into the ring post, and then Razor took over, and then Razor missed 3 straight elbow drops onto the canvas, and then Bret took back over.
Dude, why'd the canvas sound like 10? It sounded like 10. Like, it was weird.
I mean, but like it just felt there was definitely more story to the match, and it wasn't just move. I mean, you could do storytelling with move, but a lot of people forget the whole storytelling part. I mean, you had Bret working on the left arm of Razor for a good portion of the beginning, and then it just. I mean, they transitioned into other things, but like at one point, Razor stomped on Bret's hand, and then later, you could see him kind of, doing the whole handshake thing. So at least they were trying to sell things, which is not something that's as prevalent nowadays.
No.
Yeah, I was going to definitely... So first I was going to open off with piggybacking off something you said about, certain recent events. That is a good reason to watch this match because rest in peace, Scott Hall. Fantastic character, great wrestler. And going back to now, piggybacking off what you said, moving from one to the next, it is refreshing to see they're telling a story. And we are going to see more of that throughout this pay-per-view with Bret. He's the... Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but just to give a quick insight, he's going to be the less fresh man by the end of the night when it comes to the King of the Ring tournament. And it is nice to see, like you said, he's working on the leg. His finisher is the sharpshooter. It makes sense. And that's the best thing I can say about this is it makes sense. These are two great workers, but yeah, I'm a little bit let down by the match because you expect the world from this, and that's probably unfair because it's the first match of the King of the Ring, which another gripe I have, why is Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon the beginning of the tournament?
It's like they act like Bret's the top seed, so is Razor the bottom seed?
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, I guess because he just lost to the kid, and that maybe that's why he's the bottom seed of it, but...
Why? This is like
Mr. Hughes?
this is at least a semifinals matchup. Why are we opening with it?
Okay, I mean, it does make some sense to open with that because it's going to be a fire match, so you open the show high, and then your following match can bring you down, and then the one after that.
It did.
That might.
It did.
Are you saying Mr. Hughes is not a 6-star in the Tokyo Dome wrestler?
Oh, man.
He's not a 6-star in the local barnyard. He's not in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, that's...
So, before we move on to the next one, we're going to bring in Meltzer's rating of this. He gave it 3 stars. What do you guys think about it? 3 stars?
Out of 5?
Out of 5. These are 2 good workers. They are good storytellers. 3 is above average. I would,
I would say, I would agree. Almost 95% yes, 3 stars. But that finish, if you're just taking that match and spotlighting it like a Retro Nitro episode,
Shameless plug.
right? You can't say that it's a 3-star match because the ending was just so flat, like a soda that sat out in a hot car for 2 weeks. Like,
I mean, okay, first we didn't tell what the actual ending was. Bret Hart won after a reverse suplex off the top rope.
Yeah,
there was no finish to it. It was just he reversed the suplex from the top rope and 1, 2, 3.
It kind of was just like a Razor lifted his leg up for Bret. It was really like you put Play-Doh together and you just kind of molded it together and went 1, 2, 3, and it's like,
Yeah, I mean, you weren't going to have Razor tap out, and you weren't. I mean, and Bret really didn't have another maneuver to use to win a match besides the sharpshooter, so they had to do something. I mean,
I will pose this question though: is that more satisfying or less satisfying than a run-in and a disqualification?
hey now.
I will honestly say, in my opinion, I would rather have the suplex reversal for the win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would take less away for that. I mean, personally for me, you're coming off Scott Hall just passing, so I'm going to rate this higher than I would have normally.
Oh, yeah.
So I was landing at a 3.5, except for the finish, and that brought me back to the 3, because just to watch those two work after not seeing it for so many years, it's like, wow, watch. I mean, I like high-flying stuff. I like the faster-paced stuff there is now. But, I mean, you're watching one of the greatest workers in history in Bret Hart and one of the greatest bigger guys, even though Scott Hall was always dwarfed because he was surrounded by, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, all these other gigantic dudes, so he would never stood out as a big dude. But when you watch him and Bret lock up, there's a giant size difference. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I would say 3's good.
Yeah, I would agree with 3 on that one.
3?
Yeah.
We'll go 3. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, 3's good. I mean, so you got there. I mean, it had good pace overall. I mean, the surprise finish, I actually liked the surprise of the finish. Just like you said, it just kind of was a flat finish. It was a good surprise, but it was a bad, maybe the wrong maneuver to use.
Yeah.
Or as Vince would say, "Oh, what a maneuver!
What a maneuver!"
Yeah.
It's like, Vince, you've been in wrestling for 30 years. You should know what that's called.
All right, are we going to the next match? Because
Right,
yes. I need a drink. I need a drink.
So Captain's going to refill his drink. The Stowaway and I will go ahead and lean into the next match. It was Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes, and what will be the best match on the card.
This is a match.
You should be telling no lies.
This is a fantastic in-ring worker and Hall of Famer and Mr. Perfect.
Oh, he's telling lies.
Get to the boot deck.
We know why I'm the stowaway now.
We're going to shove you down in the cargo deck and let you rot, you little bastard.
Who replaced the rum with gasoline? Wow! Holy cow!
All right.
Jeez, it got warm in here.
All right, Captain.
All
Now
right,
that you listen
so,
to Just Unfair,
listen,
go ahead and lead in.
this is all right. So WWF, before this match, they recapped a storyline that had nothing to do with this match. Like, it was literally Mr. Hughes whacking Taker on the ground just repeatedly, like, he's already dead.
Stop! He's already dead.
And then he smacks Paul Bear, and Paul like supersells it, and it's like, all right, okay. As a viewer for this, I see like, okay, maybe this Hughes guy is like a real tough guy, and then you get, he doesn't even come out, right? He is jobber status in the ring,
Yeah.
like announced, like they had to announce him, and then Perfect come out, and you're like, all right, let's get a pop. But before we get to the match, I want to say this. They did a review. I want to highlight this. A review before the King of the Ring match of a Superstars live event of Mr. Hughes beating up Taker, who had a match with Giant Gonzalez. Okay, think about that.
The wrestling scene has never been hotter.
So there was a small pop for Perfect, and then I have no other notes except one. Weak. It was weak. And there's a lot of expletives in here I left out. I didn't. You know what? Go ahead.
Okay, so I will say Mr. Hughes was definitely not a strong worker.
No.
He definitely looked greener than grass. And, like, he played the slow plotting heel okay when the match started, but he missed so many spots. And Mr. Perfect was trying to turn this turd into a turd sandwich at least. And even Mr. Perfect, as good as he is, he couldn't turn this into anything other than a "is this over yet" match. And it lasted for 6 minutes and 2 seconds, and it lasted about 5 minutes and 2 seconds longer than it should have.
6 minutes.
6 minutes and 2 seconds.
You are lying. This
Nope.
is at least
6
30.
Minutes. 6 minutes and
This
2
is
seconds.
30.
Right here.
I
clocked it myself.
aged 10 years watching this thing.
So, and the finish was a DQ finish, which actually did tie back to the Taker video because he used the stupid urn to get the DQ. So, and then it was just over. And it's like, and you were after the DQ with the urn, you're like, oh, thank God it's over.
See, I'm trying to spin this into. Did you have any more notes on
I took
the great Mr. Hughes?
I literally gave you everything I had because there was not much else to write because I knew this was going to be a let's take a crap all over this match and move on to the next one kind of thing.
So, Yeah, this match was not good. I'm trying to spin it in a way where it could make sense. I can only think of two things. One, Perfect versus Hughes, round one. We need an obvious winner here.
Yeah.
So we just need to fill space. Two, maybe fill storyline that Perfect is still selling that earn shot. I don't...
Yeah, but
Maybe...
he didn't. But even after the earn shot, he was up pretty quick. It's not like he laid there and sold it for very long.
Okay, I said I'm trying. I didn't say they did a good job of it.
It's a very thin line you're treading there, and it's so thin I can barely see it.
Let's just go with Meltzer crapped on this. It's a star and a quarter.
He gave it a star and a quarter.
I'm going to give it 0.
I gave it a 1, and that was only because I didn't feel comfortable giving anything a 0, but I would have to go, it's like 0.5.
I gave it a 0 because Mr. Hughes had what'd you say, 6-minute match?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
You're strapped for this isn't a 6-hour show with a Mountain Dew KFC pre-show that you could throw this on. Like
Dolph Ziggler dressing up as
Dolph Ziggler's not doing a run-in dressed as Colonel Sanders. Like, why is Mr. Hughes having a 6-minute match on? You're already strapped for time. You have a tournament. You have a title match.
an 8-man tag.
Oh, Jesus.
So
1 star. I'm giving it a 1 star. He gave it 1 1/4. I'm giving it a 1, and I'm being very generous.
Okay.
Just because the open was decent with the slow plotting heel stuff, and then from there it fell apart.
Okay, 0 is unfair. I'm gonna up it to a 1/2 star just because Perfect was clearly trying.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. Anger from Mr. Hughes clouded my judgment out of respect for Perfect.
That's fair.
I'm gonna use it. Barnacles. It's barnacles.
Okay.
It's no good. That's my 1 barnacles. That was. Moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Ho! USA! All right. How can you not be jacked for this match? 2 just massive human beings
Man-made slapping together.
just smashing each other's belly buttons together. Okay, I will say this. In this matchup, if you were to say, meet either one of these guys in 93 in a bar, talk smack to them, you're hospitalized.
You're
Yes.
dead.
Like,
You've been
yes.
hospitalized.
It doesn't matter.
don't-
Hacksaw will ruin your life. Bam Bam will ruin your life.
You don't mess with a man who tattooed his head.
Especially in the early 90s.
Before it was the cool thing to do.
No, yeah, no. So I say I enjoyed it just for the simple fact that, 1, it was a decent match between 2 big guys at a time. Bam Bam could move. Hacksaw, for being a big guy in 93, was willing to sell. Not a lot of big guys were willing to sell for their opponents.
Come on, brother.
Right. And the one thing I really enjoyed about this match that hadn't happened yet, a clear finish.
Oh, yes.
Bam Bam with the phenomenal flying headbutt. 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't say if you're looking at this in totality, does it, moving forward, does that make Hacksaw look bad? No.
No.
Well, not whatsoever. Because it was a good match. It was a clean finish. And Bam Bam wasn't no Passover guy.
No.
And that goes to say, this was Bam Bam's, good, his push until he crossed paths with Vince, I guess. I don't know. I was always really high on Bam for many reasons, but this matchup to me was really clean. It was really good. You can't really say too many bad things about it because you have to take into consideration you have 2 guys that are very large working together in that area or that era that they really didn't. There was too much politicking, and these 2 guys weren't about that life. These 2 guys were about wrestling, okay? And I enjoyed this match. I would say the best thing to me that came into mind were the entrances. Bam! Bam! and then Hacksaw coming out doing his thing, and then the finish was clean.
I mean, and honestly, Hacksaw got a bigger pop than Mr. Perfect did.
Yeah.
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 Because, you know, he was always a good mid-card face. I mean,
Absolutely.
like, so, and honestly, the big man start they did, but they're just, like, smashing into each other. That was perfect. I mean, so for me, that was good. I mean, my favorite spot of the whole match was when Bam Bam went for a kick, completely missed, and landed on his ass. It was great. It just, like, the whole crowd was laughing, and I was laughing with them. I mean, it was great. But it was a planned spot. It wasn't a a
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
So it was good. I mean, it was only a 4-minute, 59-second match. Because even though Bam Bam's really good at being a big man, you couldn't put him in a bunch of long matches if he was going to go deep into the night.
Oh, absolutely.
So it made sense. And I mean, like you said, clean, easy finish. It takes nothing away from Hacksaw because he was always going to be around that mid-card face.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think for me, I rated it kind of on the low end just because it was a little bit shorter and it was two big guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a ton of storytelling in it. It was just two big guys smashing together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for not to cut you off, but for me, it's that turn point in a match like that where you have an apparent winner already because you do have a mid-card guy and a guy who's a little bit higher on the card. But that matchup there is if there's an upset anywhere, it's that matchup.
Yes. So I will say, watching this match, it dawned on me because I never really thought too much about Bam Bam as like a worker and like, you know, all that. Like, he was always a great look. I liked his run in ECW, but that's an agile dude right there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I slept on Bam Bam this whole time. That is an agile, big, scary man. He had a good match here. And it was a little short, but I think it served its purpose. It's an earlier tournament match. Like, you know, you expect a shorter match. Right. Now, it's time for us all to disagree with something, because I agree that this was, you know, it served its purpose. I'd say it's like a 2.5, maybe, star. So, Meltzer, 1/4 of a star.
what? He rated Mr. Hughes at perfect higher?
He did.
What the hell was he smoking?
I don't know.
Make any sense?
Make him walk the plank for that one.
Yeah, Meltzer.
Yeah, nah, I'm gonna say your 2.5 is probably goes. I gave it a 2, but I could definitely see the 2.5.
2.5.
It was definitely a solid match for especially you know, beginning of the King of the Ring pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's one of those things where context matters.
Yes.
If this was just a random match on Raw, you know, but this is very clearly early tournament match. We need to get these matches in, so it served its purpose.
Captain, what's your rating?
A 2.5 is good. Meltzer.
Be nice.
You've been drinking too much grog. That's what I'm saying.
Somebody dipped into the ale casket.
Yeah, that was,
Wee bit early in the morning before we get that one. Okay, so
yeah, you're gonna follow up with the odd promo with Terry Taylor.
So I'm gonna be completely honest. When I watched this, pretty much all of the promos and the whole thing and most of the video packages, I completely fast forwarded through because, I mean, I watched the Hogan one just because, you know, you gotta get your brother in, brother, and yeah, pretty much, basically. I mean, the fact that anyway, we'll move into that later. So, okay, so moving on.
I was going to talk about how we just passing over it. You've got a young Billy Gunn, very young Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
You've got a Rick Steiner who's still the bulldog. All right, but I really want to touch on the fact that Scott Steiner hasn't went psycho yet.
Yeah.
32.5%. He was there. He was there.
He wasn't dishing out his math, I see.
Not yet. And it was just a glimmer of like sunshine to be like, you're going to be a psycho. All right, so next one is, you know, Tatanka and Luger. So I would say, like, Lex coming out was hands down the easiest guy to boo. He was.
Oh, definitely.
And the whole narcissist in the mirror and like,
that music.
Yeah, it was awful. But the story they were telling with the plate in his arm, he had to wear the pad. He flipped out. Okay, makes sense.
The temper tantrum was pretty bad. I like that.
And just what's very interesting is 93. If you look back on it, Lex, there's two guys in this pay-per-view. You're gonna be like, eh. But while I was watching it, I noticed two things, and I was like, eh. And oddly enough, someone sent me a video and was like, hey, top 10 wrestlers before and after they were on gear. And guess what? 93, Luger and Hogan both came off of gear. If you look at that match closely, Luger was he was smaller and he was more shredded than he was previously. Now, he'll go back on the gear once he goes to WCW. But in this matchup, I thought it was weird in the beginning where, like, they kept saying, oh, well, Lex Luger played in the Canadian Football League. And then they started, like, drawing on the thing like John Madden was at the time, and it was kind of annoying.
The brain scan.
Yeah.
I love Poppy the Brain and Heenan most of the time, but that was just cringy at best.
I could appreciate the storytelling in the kayfabe when it came to, like, the elbow pad and, like, some of that stuff. But Tatanka just comes in the ring. He comes blasting in. He comes running down. Like, I was like, cool. And then there was a pop for him. And the weirdest spot for me was, like, as soon as he gets in the ring, Luger's like, whatever. Bam! Like, just smashes him. As soon as he gets in the ring, and it's like, well, it kind of looked a little awkward, like two square wheels driving a car. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was Tatanka hitting Luger with the mirror. And I'm like, that's attempted murder. Like, that's attempted murder. The crowd was hot, and they were hot not for Tatanka necessarily. They were hot because someone was beating Lex's face in.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
That's what it was. So, it was Tatanka coming in, going against a natural heel that nobody liked whatsoever. And
the only natural thing about Lex Luger. Right there.
Oh, just inject him. Never mind. So
that was mean. I'm sorry.
It was.
Don't be sorry for telling the truth.
Yeah. And so Tatanka comes in, and they've said it before. This was Tatanka's quote unquote hot streak. He hasn't. They say he hasn't lost a match. He had lost matches. He had not lost a match on television yet. So his streak was on TV. Live events, he had lost matches, but that's just not what they're portraying. So in order to protect this matchup, you kind of knew going forward, all right, well, you've got a really bad heel. You really want to keep pushing him as a bad guy, and you got this feller here who hasn't lost a match yet. And out of all the matches, this is the one I didn't suspect that would go the distance, because you've got two meatheads with zero cardio. But what's interesting is I'll put in here is Lex played the heel very well with his slow, methodical rest holds. And then what I found very interesting, too, is kind of cheesy, but Tatanka's fire up. You know, when he got fired up, it was the Hulk, but his was his own type deal. But the thing about his fire up was it was late in the match, right? Most of them are anyway. And he fired up, and it was kind of like Shane O'Mac's fire up, where it was like punch, punch, kick. It was just really like, that's how you, like...
That's your Hulk up, brother?
Yeah, like, really? Like, I mean, there was a lot of near falls, which I appreciated with it 2 minutes left in the matchup. And then the finish, I was like, okay, my mind just got blown, because that was the safe finish. It was.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, if you go through the whole match, start to finish, it was a 15-minute time limit draw.
Yep.
There were so many rest holds in this match, like tons of arm locks.
Yep.
You know, you had just so many rest holds. Like, and then even in the beginning of the match, it started with rest holds.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, guys, you're a minute in. Why are we in a rest hold already?
Yeah, I think that goes back to their limitations, and it really draws in for Luger to do that.
Agreed. I mean, that was my biggest thing. It felt like it was 15 minutes. It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, you said, the last 2 minutes when they actually did some near falls and stuff like that, that was obviously the most exciting part of the match. But even then, like, the whole thing after the ref called time limit draw, and then, you know,
Right.
trying to do something else.
I want 5 more minutes.
And then he smashes him with the exposed elbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I will come at this with a different angle, kind of. This is the best way to kill two birds with one stone, because Tatanka keeps his quote-unquote streak. Lex doesn't lose, and now Bam Bam doesn't have another match, which means he's a lot fresher when he faces. I'm not going to spoil. It's happened in 1993. Whenever he faces Bret Hart.
This is true.
I mean, I guess
Spoiled it. You ruined it for everyone.
this thing is older than me. It's okay.
That's true.
So that's all I kind of had to add on to this is, yeah, 1993 had some decent booking sometimes, surprisingly.
Sometimes.
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
Meltzerous.
Meltzering. This got 2.25 stars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was meaner. I gave it 1.5.
Yeah.
For the majority of the match, I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciated the opening and the ending, but the entire 13 minutes in between, I was just like, this is going to be a draw, isn't it? Because just watching the match with the rest holds, I'm like, these guys are milking this for everything it's worth. And I get it. The ending, it made sense, but like, I'm a 1.5 on this.
I mean, to be honest, for Tatanka, that's pretty high for his stars.
Yeah. Honestly, it's pretty high for Lex, too.
I mean, I'm not crapping on either guy, but that's the best way
We
to get them to
love
go
Lex
15.
Luger.
Whoa!
We love his selling.
Whoa!
Dude, in this match, when he was selling some punches, it was great. He's like, oh,
Wow.
dude, he's not killing you. Come on now.
Dude,
Youch.
looking at that, though, look, 93, Lex got off gear, and if you look at Lex, his physical size compared to Tatanka had more mass.
Absolutely.
So, like, when you're sitting there looking at those hits, it's like, I'm not going to lie. I think Tatanka, if you got in a shoot match, Tatanka would have wrecked
Oh, yeah.
Lex. And he would have been, whoa!
Lex was all look.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Yeah. So, really quick, I would go 2, and that's mostly just because of the storytelling and the fact that you kept both guys strong without having a stupid run and finish. So,
I mean, I could accept a 2.
okay.
2.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll settle on a 2. Yeah. But a little below average, but the ends made sense.
Yeah.
You're safe this time, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, he gave it an extra quarter, so moving on.
He's going to get his barnacles on his man parts.
Okay, so now you're going into the next round. The time limit's up to 30 minutes. So you know that in this round you're probably not getting a time limit draw.
No.
Because now whoever's going to be going into the finals, you can't have them going 30 minutes and then going to the finals, which you could, but especially with some of the people. But so you've got next match.
Hart v. Perfect.
So babyface versus babyface, and obviously Bret's the bigger babyface.
Yeah, and I think what helped them before this matchup was the fact that they did the face-to-face promo prior. And that really set the stage for two baby faces on how you make that work. And it's, huh? They just peacock. All they did was peacock the entire time. Huh? You want to go, Marsh? Huh? Like, that's all it was. Yeah, I didn't hear no bell. Ding, ding, right?
Was Mr. Perfect secretly the bad dad?
Yeah, right, he was the bad dad. So all it was there was nothing kind said between the two in this promo. It set up for that cutthroat matchup that would ensue afterward, which we all anticipated, which would be a very good matchup. But there were some elements you had to take into consideration. You know, this is not the matchup you wanted. It's the matchup that they're going to give you in this situation.
Yes.
So we want Hart versus Perfect. Yes. Okay, both guys have wrestled the match. Hart's working injured. So one of these guys has to work another 30-minute match after. So we're going to get by the best we can and not make both of them look terrible. And let's do that. Go.
Oh, yeah, basically. I mean, and if you look at the way the match actually was structured and everything, I mean, this match would have definitely been better if Perfect was a heel. It would have made it. You would have had that element. I mean, later in the match, he played the heel.
He had to.
Yeah, somebody had to play the heel to get some heat. So he played the heel once you got about to the middle of the match. So I think pretty much when he took his arm strap off is when he went heel, basically, for the rest of the match. But he started doing some of those shenanigans.
You made me think of something whenever you brought that up. In 1993, you kind of had to do that because it's not like, 2017 where it's like, oh, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. We know who both of these guys are. We know blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We care about in-ring work. It's like, no, we actually do need that extra storytelling element because fans aren't as in the loop. So, yeah, it makes more sense now why, Perfect would do something like that in this match.
Totally.
So are we going to Meltzer this one?
Before we Meltzer it, I do have some more notes. So they had a really good technical start. I mean, they did some really good technical stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good countering. Let's see. Obviously, we talked about Perfect went heel. Hart started working the legs. He did really good figure 4 work. I mean, obviously, he was trying to work towards that, finish. You had some good. They had a really good double suplex spot where they went over the ropes.
Yep.
They executed that perfectly. I mean, that looked really good. I mean,
high risk move,
yeah.
that's for sure, for both wrestlers.
And obviously the end of it was just Bret reversed the small package that Mr. Perfect started, and that was the end. I get that finish to an extent because you already saw Hart win on a reversal in the first one, and then this one you saw him win with the reversal. I mean, and they did a lot of different, near falls, and they did some different, quick pen style things like the small package. I think they may have did a few other things there. But, I mean, at the end, after all of his heelish antics, Perfect did offer the handshake so he could stay face after the pay-per-view. Yeah. I mean, so that was something, I guess, to wrap up that little heelish story for the match.
I'm going to add one thing onto that, too. I feel like Perfect is just one of those wrestlers who is just naturally good at playing a heel, personality-wise. I don't remember if he did this on this pay-per-view, but my favorite thing about his entrance was, he throws the towel, and then he, spits the gum and slaps it in midair into the crowd. I think he's just naturally a good heel, so it is weird to see him be a babyface.
Yeah, I was not keen on his babyface. Just even, some of his other babyface stuff during this area, he wasn't particularly good at being a babyface.
Yeah, it's going against the grain for him.
He was such a good heel.
It's like Orton.
Also, I think they did a poor job booking him as a babyface because when you look back, we're going to kind of veer off for just a quick second. His babyface turn is just because he's not with Bobby Heenan anymore. That is a very weak reason to be a babyface.
Yeah, but then again, Heenan was the heel factory for Hogan for a long time.
But
so it kind of makes sense if you break with him, you automatically become a babyface.
Yeah.
Because you're part of that heel factory.
Okay, that is a good point. It's just there isn't a lot of he didn't I feel like he didn't do enough to help other baby faces and do stuff. It's just he doesn't like Bobby Heenan.
I mean, that's a good enough reason to be face.
That is a good enough reason to be face, but are we going to talk about let's star ratings?
Meltzer it.
Meltzer. 4.25. That's very high.
I gave it a 4. I liked the match overall. I mean, I really liked a lot of the storytelling and the match work and the counters and the reversals because it showed you Mr. Perfect as I am perfect. And then you had Bret Hart's, obviously, he's such a good technical wrestler, and their styles matched so well. I mean, yeah, you could definitely tell Bret had already wrestled a good match, and you could tell Perfect had tried really hard in his Mr. Hughes match to not want to just go home for the night. So, I mean, Mr. Perfect definitely made up for that first match here.
Yes.
I think he helped carry a little bit of a tired Bret at that point. I mean, but because of his injuries. But, I would go with a 4. I mean, I understand I'm probably the high end for this. This was the best match for me for pretty much the whole pay-per-view. But
it was the best match for me, too. I gave it about a 3 3/4 is what I would say. It's still a very good match, but to me, to reach at least a 4, it needs to be something, close to mind-blowing. I just thought this was good.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
3 3/4 is good.
It was good. I'll leave it at that. So 3, in the range of 3 was good. The only thing for me that I did not like was the finish again.
But this just goes to prove.
I got one word for you. SAWFT. Soft.
The captain's lost his mind.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but you have to admit at this point right now that anybody who complains about finishes in the WWE clearly didn't watch WWF because there were so many DQ finishes, small packages, all back then. None of that has changed. All these people just haven't gone back and watched that older stuff, even during the Attitude Era. That was all DQ finishes and run-ins, and everybody praises it to the end of the world. it's the same.
I don't know if it's just the case with like me. I don't know if like you're like this too, or if you're like this too. WCW in the year 2000 just desensitized me to bad finishes. So
There was no such thing.
there was no such thing as a good finish.
I didn't like the fact that it had to be a roll-up pin. I just didn't like that. I would have preferred a more dramatic finish, like like that suplex, a spot where they were outside and Hart just rolled in last second. To me, that would have shown a little bit more than a small.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or fantasy booker, Perfect goes for a perfect plex. Hart reverses it and beats him with his own move. You do something like that.
You're going in strong. Everyone's coming out fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, now we're into the match of the night.
I am
for the
so
Stowaway.
excited. I want to savor this, so we're gonna keep the same formula going.
Didn't even keep notes. I'll tell you this. So I'm going off path. So you guys want to talk about this match? I will finish it up. Do everything on the match. Everything.
I still want to savor this.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll leave it in. There's a 13-minute match, first of all, for Hogan versus Yoko. So we're gonna leave that one alone.
Poor Yoke.
Okay, I will have to admit this. I've never been a super Hulkamaniac, but I still pop like crazy for his entrance. I love his theme song. Every time it plays, I get freaking goosebumps. It's always been that way. And and obviously he got the biggest pop of the night. It was always going to be the biggest
Obviously.
pop. Even 93 Hogan could get a bigger pop than most of the stars now could.
Yes.
And he was at the end of his run. This was his last major pay-per-view because he, was inevitably going to, anyway.
Well, I mean, at that time, too, he was out doing movies.
Yeah, he was doing all kinds of stuff.
Thunder in Paradise.
Yeah.
I think he was filming Thunder in Paradise in
Yeah,
'93.
Was that
So
after the babysitter movie?
yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Nanny or something. Yeah.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, come on. When you're a kid growing up and you see somebody like, I know him, you're going to watch that movie.
Come on, I loved Mr. Nanny when we were kids.
It was
that
great.
was awesome.
Suburban Commando is my
Yes.
favorite. Suburban Commando.
Yes. So as you would think with a Yoko versus Hulk, it is a slow plotting match. They circled the ring about 98 times before they ever touched each other. So that was good. I mean, you got a lot of strength spots where Yoko was showing his size. Typical of that. I mean, it was just a typical Hogan versus Big Heel. That's basically what it was at the end. I mean, you had the wonderful bear hug spot because Yoko needed a 45-minute break in the middle of the match.
I'm just getting more excited the more I hear about this.
So I'm gonna save the end of the match. We're gonna save the end. We're gonna let you talk about it, and then we'll talk about the end.
Okay, let me start off by saying I'm not a huge Hulkamaniac either. His entrance is iconic. I think there's no getting around that. Real American, ripping the shirt. So, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there is a fan in the front row dressed as Hulk Hogan. Every time Hogan does something, he gets up and starts doing the ear thing.
And if you're out there, we want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you.
So, to cut in real quick with a short story, I went to a Dynamite show when probably the first year they started. There was a guy dressed up like that Hogan dude sitting right near me doing pretty much the same stuff. Granted, this guy was probably one when this pay-per-view happened at best, but it was hilarious because it was a Dynamite show, first of all.
Internet, do your work. Find out that guy.
Okay. Back to it. He's doing the U points. They're sizing each other up. It's like Hogan thinks he's in a Marvel movie and he's fighting Thanos and he's going in slow motion. However, I'm going to skip ahead to the greatest ending on this show. The greatest finish I've ever seen. A homeless man dressed as a Dr. Seuss character gets on the apron with a camera. Hogan looks over like, well, what's this Hulkamaniac doing? What's this homeless Hulkster doing?
He needs some vitamins.
I'm gonna walk over, give him some vitamins, or just investigate. And the camera explodes in his eyes.
No.
He's never gonna be able to see again. And then the leg drop. And then the leg drop by Yoko. And then the Hulkamania fan looking dejected in the front row as Jim Ross says, "There's children, they're crying." It's beautiful. This is amazing.
So I don't know if you noticed. I was paying close attention. Obviously, we know the end of this match going in because it's 30 years old.
Oh, I noticed him before the match too.
That guy, when Hogan was entering, you saw that guy right there at ringside, and you're like, if you were there in the moment, you didn't know. But that guy wasn't there for the previous match. Now all of a sudden he is.
He just appeared.
Okay, so we'll wait for the captain for last. Give us the Meltzer rating on this, because I'm sure he's got an awesome take
I
on
think
it.
this is 5 stars by Dave Meltzer, but what he actually gave it was a 1.5 stars.
Oh, come on, Davey.
Okay,
Dude.
so you're both going to hate me. I gave it 2.
I gave it 2.
He rated that lower than Mr. Hughes?
Yeah, she rated lower than Mr. Hughes.
Oh, that's dirty, Dave. That's dirty.
Can I just say, I don't think I've ever laughed harder watching that Hulk Hogan fan after whenever Yoko was given the belt. He's just...
brother.
Oh, I'm almost crying thinking about it. It was so funny. But yes,
Damn
Captain.
stupid ref allergies.
Okay, so... All right,
Thoughts?
Captain, fill us in.
Thoughts?
Okay, all right.
Give us your match rating.
So this is my whole take on this whole scenario. So watching the Yoke documentary, right?
The Hulkster and the Yoke.
Yeah. Watching Yoko's documentary, then knowing Hogan, right? And then going back and watching the entirety of this, right? Just focusing on this match, I was like, all right, lots of strikes and no slams. Like, this is not going to be a clean finish. I already know somehow, some way, this is just going to be like, stretch it out now, stretch it out. And they did. And there's a reason why Hulk had Hulkamania, and there's a reason why Yoke was so big for the time. Literally.
Yeah.
Figuratively and literally. They've made multiple comments on, like Macho, looked like you gained 100 pounds. Like Yoke was a big dude. Like, he just was. So watching this match, it's like, all right, Hogan's not going to slam him. Like,
He's lost too much size.
yeah. I mean, there was no way. And it's like, okay. And the finish happened. I'm like, all right. The problem with this matchup for me, how much does this matchup take away from the next? and what I want to say, preface it, and this has very little to do with the actual review, but I want to dive into one section that just bothered me. Right? I could barely watch the match because I was so frustrated. They kept referring to, even when he came out, he was from the Polynesian Islands. He was the Yokozuna, right? Man, that was a bunch of prejudiced bastards back then.
Yeah, they were.
Holy cow. I'll say that because, like, I know I've watched sumo wrestling before, and sumo is different. So they okay, just look it
Sumo's
up.
pretty cool.
Look it up. The minimum amount of actual, so the tier of Yokozuna is like, bam, the top tier. Forever, they did not allow a non-Asian to reach Yokozuna level.
I'm trying to think. There's only like a small handful of Yokozunas in history, right?
Yes. So sumo wrestling has been around for 200 years.
Yes.
Plus?
Roughly.
So I will tell you this, and what bothered me is the representation of Yoko as a sumo wrestler in this scenario, because they use it as non-American, really, versus I'm the American. And it was like, all right, well, you're taking a dude who's an islander and throwing him into a culture that's like No, we don't do. So if you want to look at a real sumo wrestler, look up Tochinoshin Toshi.
I need to look this one up.
Look him up, and I will show you a picture. Look him up. So it's Tochin.
I can do it really quick.
Toshin.
So Toshin,
Tochin Oshin.
Okay.
Tioshi. Okay?
Oh, is it this guy? At the very top?
Yes. Click on him. Okay, click on images. He's a Georgian.
Oh
has-
my goodness.
He has not. So here's the picture. Yokozuna versus a real sumo wrestler. He is a non-native. Okay?
For those of you who can't see this image, he is jacked.
So when you're alluding that all sumos are the Yoko, that guy reached Ozaki, which is not Yokozuna status, and that guy is just no thank you. He is a very large man, and he's got Derek from MorePlatesMoreDates.com shoulders. He's got big old shoulders. So when I watch this matchup, I look at him and they kept referring to him as Yokozuna, the sumo, and everything. I was like, he's not though. Then now the match finished and he did the slam or his bonsai drop on him. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with like the whole like anti-non-American thing. I was like, this dude just did a bonsai drop, and that's not even a move in sumo. Like, now Yoko's where he does the belly-to-belly slam, legit.
Yes.
That should have been his finish because he did that on Hulk. Hulk super sold that like he was having a seizure, and I was like, yeah, do it. But I appreciated the fact they attempted, but when it comes to the sumo aspect, it ruined it for me just because I was like, man.
Different time. It's a different
time.
time, and that's how you have to look at any of this older content you're really digging into. It's a different time. It was pre-internet. It was wokeness. I mean, so I mean, it wasn't necessarily that was good storytelling back in the day. American versus non-American.
Right.
That was considered good storytelling.
If you really want to see a good example of that, look up Hulk Hogan's promo at WrestleMania 9. It's that is you don't want to you don't want to have that like be swirling around is what I'm saying.
Current days, but
Current
then,
days.
like you said, that's what it was. And the finish to come around back to it, that match, it was rough to have a homeless Hulkamaniac blast him in the face, and he had to sell it, and he sold it. Okay, he sold it. The commentators continued that storyline throughout the rest of the pay-per-view, and then it went to Hulk not being there. I was shocked. It was a very clean pin, right? It was a clean pin.
There was no kick out at 3.01.
There was no kick out. He came out injured, and it played into the rest of the story. So, did it take away from Yoke's win? That was my question.
I would say you were never letting him beat Hogan clean in the middle of the ring. So I think honestly, for him, that's the only way he was winning anyway. So, I mean, I don't think it really takes away from it. But at the same time, you have to look at the fact of who he was facing. If he was facing Bret Hart and that's how he won, okay, that might take away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was facing Hogan, and let's face it, not really many people beat Hogan clean in the middle of the ring. So I think it was fine.
So, can I give you a quick 3-second conspiracy theory on that cameraman?
Oh, boy.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Who is he?
He's a member of the Wyatt family.
You realize that most of the members of the Wyatt family were either not born yet or they were in diapers?
He was a time-traveling member of the Wyatt family. That's Grandpa. That's Papa Wyatt right there. Coming back.
Moving on. What are you going to give this?
Moving
on. What'd Meltzer give him? 1.5? I say 2 easily. Yeah. I appreciated the fact I didn't expect any slams. I knew what I was getting.
And I mean, it's honestly, let's face it, if for me or you, most Hogan matches fall into the 2-3 category.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting with Hulk, but that's what you pay to see when you're looking for Hulk. It's like a Ric Flair match. He's doing the face flop. He's going off the top rope. You know that's what you're getting, but that's what you want to see.
I mean, I know most people don't like it, but I will back Warrior 100% all the way through. He's not a terrible wrestler because my expectation level is here for him, and he never went above it, and he never really went below it. I feel the same way with Hulk. He is right here. He never goes above his work, his abilities. He never goes below it. He's just very consistent with what they do.
Yes.
And
And
that's
Hulk's going
it.
to give you a show. That's what he's there to do.
100%. So that's
Hulk
where
and
you
Warrior
fall
are
in.
going to give you a show.
Yeah, and that's where they fall. They're not going to have the match of their lives. They're just going to be very consistent and in the ring consistent, but they're going to give you that show, which adds on top of that value, the monetary value that they're so willing to put a stronghold on Vince for.
I'm so happy we gave this the time that it needed.
Listen, if the original formatting of this show was going to go through, you wouldn't have had this time, and you've been a sad little stowaway. So.
I would have been a very sad little stowaway.
So, okay, moving on. What's our next match?
It should have. This is the 8-man tag that I didn't even bother.
Okay, you didn't even bother?
Listen, I'm not even apologizing for it whatsoever.
I actually watched this. So
I
you're
did
welcome.
not. So
This was a massive come down, I will
Okay.
admit.
It had to be. It had to be.
Yes.
You're coming off of Hulk. You couldn't go into another match without getting a letdown. I mean, you threw an 8-man. You had the Smoking Guns. You had Money Inc. You had the Steiner Brothers, and you had the Head Shrinkers. So it was Steiner Brothers and Smoking Guns versus Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was really a whole lot of backstory to this match. I mean, there probably was. I didn't really dig deep to it. You didn't watch it, so I didn't really dig too deep in it. It was only 6 minutes and 49 seconds for an 8-man tag.
how
so.
crazy is that? 6 minutes and what?
49 seconds.
49 seconds, and Mr. Hughes went 6 minutes and
2 seconds.
2 seconds. So 40 seconds is the difference between an 8-man tag and Mr. Hughes and Perfect.
So I will say, backstory-wise, Money Inc. I think was just about to start feuding with the Undertaker. So I don't think this is. I think
was the end of
this is
something?
this is just a throwaway. I think.
Okay, just throw
This is
okay. So I will say that Bart took most of the heat.
Yeah.
bang bang
Which,
Bart.
let's face it, it's Bart. He was going to take the heat. Billy won with a small package, so there's your next small package of the night. There was a brawl afterwards, which let's face it, the brawl was the best part of the match. And of course, the good guys are left standing. What do you expect? I gave it 1.5 stars because it had some decent action. I mean, it was a throwaway match. I gave it 1.5. I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't as bad as Mr. Hughes. I mean, it was better than that. I mean, it was probably the second worst match on the card, in all honesty. But they didn't give him any time. I mean, even back then, like watching, like the Steiner brothers weren't in the match that much, but the Steiner brothers WWF run was not long and it wasn't very good. I mean, they were much better in WCW. So, I mean, you weren't really missing much if you fast forward and just plain out didn't watch it. But that's my job. I get to watch all the matches. He gets to skip them.
I mean, yeah, I didn't even bother. I was like, I'm not even wasting my time on a match that I can't really give any depth into because WWF, even at that time, cared less about their tag division.
Look at the captain using his privilege and not watching the match. It's a load of bullshit.
I mean, it was on. My eyes went to it a few times.
I smell a mutiny. However,
You're not even invited on the ship.
Yeah,
you're a throwaway. Who said that? Okay.
Okay, give us the Meltzer and let's wrap this crap up and move to the next thing.
Meltzer gave it a 1. I don't care. It's a 1.
Yeah, whatever.
The poop deck's getting full.
Okay. All right, Captain. Let's move on to our Intercontinental title match. I'm sure you have some great insight into this one.
Yeah, straight up. I will say this. Like the last match, I didn't take any notes.
Okay. So let's talk about the real big thing. The Hogan match, which was the World Heavyweight title match, was before the 8-man. It was before the Intercontinental match, which tells you that is Hogan getting out of Dodge.
Yes.
Because if this was Hogan sticking around, that would have been the last match, probably even after the King of the Ring.
Oh, yes.
Finals. So you got Shawn versus everyone's favorite wrestler from '93, Crush.
This isn't your spotlight.
There's so much blood
Bret,
in
it's
this match.
mine.
I watched this match. I didn't take any notes for a reason. There was nothing of value in this match.
Okay.
Except the mullet.
That's my first
mullet.
note. So much hair.
There was
so much hair.
There was so much hair. Diesel, right?
Yeah.
Diesel was a plus. And then the other thing, like, I don't understand it, but to me, the coolest thing in the match was not the super kick to the back of the head that was sold poorly by Crush. It was the fact that you had Doinks.
Come on, cigars.
Apostrophe S. And when they hit that cigar spot, dude, they were on point. Like, they didn't miss a beat. Like, they both... And Crush was just like What was in that? Oh, bam! Super kick. Good night. 1, 2, 3. Game over.
So,
Like, you knew who was winning. You knew who was winning. And it wasn't the dude that had the weird tights on that was friends with Hogan.
I know.
Like, it's not happening. Like, why does Crush come out and they refer to Hogan?
So, there was...
Well, we got to be concerned for the guy that just got shot in the face with a camera.
Oh my god. So, this match had tons of standing around. It had
to.
an incredibly long front face lock that Crush powered out of 3 times, and Shawn kept going back to it. Shawn Michaels is one of the best workers of all time. He couldn't make Crush get a good match.
There's no value in this match.
Okay, Meltzer it. Just Meltzer it.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Star and a half.
I gave it a star and a half.
I'd say a star. I'll be honest, at this point, if I had a time machine, I'd go back in time to see if the Hulk Hogan fan was still in the front row. To see if he stuck around.
Oh, and this went 11 minutes and 14 seconds.
Jeez.
So, I will admit Crush looked decent in parts, but that's probably due to Shawn, not actually Crush.
Yeah.
So, I mean... When I saw this match was after the 8-man, I'm like, you're giving me 2 downer matches in a row because nobody expects Crush to beat Shawn here because he's got Diesel at ringside with him. So Crush has no chance. So there's nothing to keep me invested other than the front face lock power outs.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically that's an up based on fan view, fan favorite. It's going to be an up because everyone wants to see Shawn at that time. There was some value. Yeah, I mean, there was some value with the IC belt. You knew who was going to win.
Yeah.
I mean,
back before it was a prop.
No belt in WWE currently matters.
No. Okay, so that ends the downer part of the show. Let's go into the finals.
We really want to go there? Really want to go to the final? Bam versus Hart.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into Bam versus Hart, I just watched this match last night in its entirety.
18 minutes and 11 seconds, by the way.
And I will say... everything that we've alluded to, right? We've watched the entire pay-per-view, right? You watch it, yeah. No, I watched it. I didn't take any notes on some of those garbage matches. Throw those things overboard, okay? That's chum. That's fish.
They walked the plank, they did.
All right, that's nothing for anybody to eat.
I just steal the rum in the bottom of the ship.
So it's watching the entirety of it. This was the conclusion of the small package roll-ups, the storylines in each match, the draw match between Lex Luger and Tatanka, Bam skipping it, and now we're seeing that you've got bad guy, fresh, beast from the east, Ashbury Park, New Jersey, right, who's good to go, versus tired, babyface, beat up Hart, who can't hit his finish at all, you know, in this matchup, and it's David Goliath is what they painted. And in reality, I'm going to go back to what I said when it was Bam versus Hacksaw. If it was a shoot, that would be the match I want to watch. If this was a shoot, Bam is eating Bret for lunch. Because this is the thing. In 93, you said it before, people don't get tattoos for... Bam got tattoos, and his buddies were like, oh, you're going to go do that fake fight thing. And then Bam went and did it, and then anybody who said, oh, you're going to go do wrestling, that's just fake. Nobody said that and had teeth after. Okay? The dudes Bam ran with, they wouldn't say anything, okay? So if Bam wanted to, Bam would have destroyed Hart. And I'll say there was a spot in there where Hart did the whole lean back, jump over. I was shocked. He actually did a flippity-floppity flyover move. He was a little agile. He landed, and then he gave Bam, not potatoes, there were some stiff punches on the floor. And I was like, did you awaken the beast? Because, I mean, those were some stiff ones there, Bret. Like, Ashbury Park, he's going to take you down to the street, you know what I mean? But as far as the match went, the thing about Bam was a big guy. He was agile, but he could sell. And Bret worked the best he could with the injuries he really had, which was an ankle, a sprained ankle, and they sold his hand and stuff like that. And I appreciated the fact that Bam worked so well with Bret, and Bret worked well with Bam, even though they were two different wrestling styles. There wasn't any spot in there that I was like, oh, this is bad or anything. The only thing about the match is I hated the victory roll-up.
Yeah,
Hands down, hated the...
That was the theme of the night, was the roll-up, the roll-up, the
Yep.
roll-up. How many clean finishes were there in the night? The only real clean finish was, the Yoko leg drop on Hogan, and that wasn't really a clean finish?
It wasn't, no.
So, I mean...
Well, Bam hitting Duggan.
Oh, yeah, that was the cleanest.
Yeah.
Did the headbutt. So, Bam hit the headbutt here on Hart, got the 3 count, and Earl Hebner came out and restarted the match because Luna hit Bret with the chair. So, I mean... Any other time, they're not going to restart it. That's just the end of the match. But because it's the King of the Ring and there's more story to tell, they restart the match and it goes on. Bam actually did a great job working Bret's back for a good part of the match. I mean, he was in control most of the match. And then after the restart of the match, Hart had a third or fifth wind, and he showed some really good endurance and got fired up and moving again before the victory roll. So, I mean, if you look at, he just did a lot of great stuff, like Bret stuff. You know, he showed the endurance. He was the smaller guy. He showed his technical side to kind of get that win. And I mean, the victory roll-up looked good. Was it believable because of Bam's size? I don't know. But I mean, they pulled it off well.
Yeah, I know there was one spot where Bam had him kind of up on a shoulder and Bret reversed it, rolled around, and put him in a sleeper. Yeah. I mean, it was a really good match. There was some spots in there that were... I mean, you expect. It's just the finish was just very plain for that
it's a WWF finish
line of the pay-per-view. It was just for the very first King of the Ring. I don't think it was appropriate. Going home, does it make him look weak? No, and it doesn't for the simple fact.
He wouldn't have looked weak if he lost to the sharpshooter because you're losing to Bret Hart.
That's true. Well,
I mean, the way that they finished it wasn't even a Bam versus Hart thing afterwards. There was zero beef with the two wrestlers going forward. The weird part was they had the interviews, the PIPs, the picture-in-pictures during, oh, Bam, who do you want to go against in the next matchup? And so they were doing that, but the victory roll-up followed by the strange... promo / the crowning.
Yeah, okay, so before we get to that part, let's just do the match first. Give us your take, and then we'll Meltzer it.
So, Bret versus Bam Bam. The most I can give you here is the right man won if you're looking for long-term storytelling. Because Bret Hart he's your former champion. He's going to eventually get back to champion status. Bam... You know, I'm a fan of Bam Bam. Are you? You know, I'm guessing you're a fan.
He's never more than an upper mid-carder.
That's what I'm saying. Is he'd event WrestleMania against Lawrence Taylor, but outside of that, I mean, yeah. When it comes to status in the company, the right man won, and it served its purpose.
Right. So, Meltzer.
3 3/4 stars.
I give it 3.5.
Yeah. Almost right with old Davey.
I mean, I would say Perfect Heart was a better match. Yeah. But this was number 2 for me. I mean...
It's just a finish, man.
Honestly, if you look at this pay-per-view and you look at the ratings for the whole thing, it was all Bret Hart. Bret Hart carried this whole show.
Yes.
Because if you look at the rest of the card outside of, Hogan and Yoko, which would have drawn people to the building, and if you look outside of Hacksaw and Bam Bam, I mean, the rest of it was placeholders.
Yes.
I mean, and that's what King of the Ring is a lot. But, if you have the right talent, they can make it work, and... didn't have the right talent in some places.
I would like to add in a quick disclaimer for King of the Ring 1993. There were other King of the Rings before this. It's just they were not prominent. They were house show things. They were,
It was just a tournament to draw people to the building.
It was a tournament to up house show numbers, basically. Yeah. So that's why we started with the actual pay-per-views.
Yeah, because it's hard to find footage of those house shows. Some of them you can't find anything on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had to start somewhere, so the pay-per-views make the most sense.
And plus, you go back and look at the former Kings, and it's like Tito Santana?
Didn't
Haku?
Big Jim Studd win one or something like that?
Oh, Jim Duggan won one.
Okay, it was Jim Duggan, that's right.
It's like King of the Ring?
Yeah, so
I mean, about that one.
Okay, so now that we have it, Captain, what's your rating for the BAMs? You're going to go with the 3?
Yeah,
okay.
3.
So let's talk about, even though we're not going into the rest of 93 after this, that wonderful interview segment at the end with Bret Hart and Jerry the King Lawler.
I cannot confirm this. I'm 90% sure that Lawler actually injured Bret with that chair.
Dude, that was wicked.
That was wicked.
Yeah.
I cringed and I was like, oh man, that looked bad because he didn't hit him with the flat part of the chair.
No, he
hit
did
him
not.
with the rigid part, man, it was not a good spot.
No, I mean, I understand this led into the Bret versus, Lawler thing, and Lawler was a huge star in Memphis, but if you're an outside person looking in, I mean,
Ooh.
Lawler was never more than a mid-carder in the WWF. I mean, so Bret's status was higher. I mean, it would have played well in Memphis, but
Yeah.
who cares about Memphis when you're talking about, a worldwide audience? But, I mean, the Scepter shot was good. The Scepter shot was really good. That played well. I mean, the beatdown was overall, but that chair was unnecessary. I mean, if it would have been a regular style chair, it probably would have been fine, but considering it was that stupid throne.
Yes.
That was rough.
So, I mean, that was kind of a letdown for me after that. I mean, I think having Bret have the clean interview afterwards with the promo would have been better.
Especially for your first one.
But I understand
Yes.
you're also building to your next pay-per-view. After that, you're using...
Well, that devalues the King of the Ring.
It kind of does, but...
It is also kind of strange to see that the winner of the King of the Ring doesn't immediately get a title shot or something.
Right.
Because if I remember correctly, Luger was the one who SummerSlam was next, I think. Luger was the one who main evented against Yoko after this.
This was after the wonderful body slams on the
On the airship carrier, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna say overall a lot of filler. I mean, which kind of to be expected. I mean, the title match with Shawn and Crush, probably you could have put that on a Raw. I mean, he didn't need to be on here. The 8-man tag didn't need to be on here. I mean, you did have 2 hours and 49 minutes to fill up, I think, or 47.
Well, too, at the time, take out that tag match and put it in a women's match. I would have rather seen Luna and
Alundra.
Yeah. I mean, go at it and comparatively.
Ooh, Bull Nakano. Do you remember Bull Nakano? With the
Vaguely,
giant
just a
blue
little bit,
hair?
Yeah. That would have been cool.
I mean, this pretty much wraps up the King of the Ring 93. I would say that. How many shots would it have taken you to get through this pay-per-view? I mean, some matches you're probably going through pretty clean, but I'm sure there's at least one match in there, Mr. Hughes, where you might not have made it to the next one.
Hughes, the 8-man, and Michaels. I'm sorry, Sean. The Michaels match, man, I would have had at least 2 each match. So I'm gonna say maybe a shot and a half to 2 shots easily on average to get through this pay-per-view.
So it's not an awful pay-per-view, but you're definitely using some liquid courage to get through some of it.
Yeah.
That is actually kind of a good thing for WWF in the 1993 year because it was a terrible year for WWF.
Yeah. Outside of a few key performers, I mean, overall, a lot of it was that you weren't quite the new generation, but you weren't quite out of the Hogan era, so you were in that weird turning
You had no
point.
idea what you wanted to be.
Yeah. Like you when you're 18.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, me was still 34.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay, closing remarks, anything from anyone for this?
I would recommend watching King of the Ring 1993. Fast forward through 3 of the matches.
At least 3 of them.
Forget the endings for the most part. They make sense at the end, just like a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, the roll-ups and everything, that did work, but, there was storytelling to it. It wasn't just random roll-up on Raw number 17.
There's a few reasons to go back and watch this. The first one is obviously pay respects to Scott Hall. The second one, that hysterical finish to the Hogan Yoko match.
Yes.
You need to watch that.
Even if you just watch a clip on YouTube, don't even watch the whole pay-per-view. Just go find that and watch it.
Yeah, and I would say also just to see the Jerry Lawler beatdown at the end. The chair was unnecessary, but it is kind of it's unique for the time, I would say.
Well, fellas, we're out of rum.
Well, you're out. Hold on.
We're out of content. And for that, we raise our glass and say thank you.
Thank you.
To the next one.